Hello, today we are going to be recreating Sophia Loren's iconic eye makeup and lip. I'm throwing the lip in there just because it really makes the look. I obviously have my base on. We're just gonna get right into it. I have my base on. The one thing that you need to know about Sophia is, number one, she did her own makeup a lot, which I super love and respect. She was a satin matte kind of girl, okay? So when it comes to finish, you want to think satin matte. Like if you are really truly trying to I don't know, embody the essence of Sophia Loren's makeup. If you want to modernize it, go ahead and throw a highlight on there. But if you want to be true to her, satin matte finish, okay? That's very much what I did today. She loved a sculpted look, but it wasn't overly done. It wasn't overly blended. I have obviously adjusted tones based on my skin tone because she is quite a bit more tan than I am. Duh. So in terms of blush, she really liked she liked peachy kind of tones. More often than not, it sort of looked like a little bit of more of an extension of her contour bronzer. Some warmth on the cheeks. It wasn't overly done. That's basically all you gotta know, dude. The only shine that you're gonna see on her face is going to be like her eyeballs, probably like a gorgeous earring, and then also her lips, which weren't overly shiny. They were definitely more of like a satin kind of sheen. Yeah, dude, let's get into the eyes. Also, I realized that especially with this black top, I'm kind of like disappearing into this background. I have to get new background lights. Gotta get new background lights, but it's the really beautiful like chocolatey brown, and I feel like you can't really see it, which is really depressing. Anyway, should I have done this look when my hair was longer and darker? Maybe, probably. In fact, I got a lot of comments from you guys saying that I looked like Sophia Loren when my hair was longer and darker, but I didn't do it, so we're doing it now. So to prime my eyes, I went in with a little bit of concealer, just like leftover concealer. I was using Kosas. And then I went in with a little bit of my e.l.f. eyeshadow primer, just tiny amounts of each of them. This is the Shadow Lock Eyelid Primer, one of my favorites. Might actually be my favorite eyelid primer. And then I just set with a tiny bit of powder. That's basically it. She had these really obviously the eyeliner is super iconic. We're gonna start off with the eyeshadow. So for my eyeshadow, I'm gonna be using this Charlotte Tilbury palette, upside down. This is the Beautifying Eye Trends in Supernatural palette. So I'm actually going to be going in with the lightest shade right here. Again, and adjusting tones based on my skin tone because I am very pale. She was much more tan. So depending on your skin, you're creating basically a smoky eye. You know what I mean? So I think that this color is going to be absolutely perfect. But you want to sort of maintain those more neutral tones, even going slightly more on the cool toned side of the colors. So I'm gonna pick up my Sigma E54, one of my faves, dude. And I'm gonna obviously pick up this color. I don't know what it's called. 3 maybe? Yeah, 3, Matte Silk, I think. Or I guess that's just the, Matte Silk is the formula. I was gonna say shade formula. Whatever. So I'm just gonna dip into that, and I'm really gonna tap off my brush because I don't wanna fall out since I've already got my base on. Oh, that's another thing that you should keep in mind when it comes to Sophia. Everyone with hollows and darkness are gonna love this. She did not like excessive coverage underneath the eyes, which I'm obsessed with. She thought that it made the face look too flat. So she was an advocate for all of us who deal with hollows and darkness. All right, so I'm going to have a relatively velvety base. Actually, you know what? I can feel a little bit of stick in my very inner corner. So I'm just gonna go in with a teeny bit more of my powder where that eye just stays creased. It stays creased, you know what I mean? All right, back to the shadow. And I'm going to basically just build, I'm gonna pat, and build this all over the lid from the lash and up. Now, in most of her looks, because I was, checking out obviously a lot of them. She just has this gorgeous smoky eye, and sometimes it's darker, sometimes it covers the whole lid, sometimes it's kind of blended into the lid, but it, is a little bit more focused on the liner and then blended up. So you really have like quite a bit to choose from, but essentially it's a smoky eye. Okay, so I'm starting off with this all over the lid, and then I'm stopping as soon as I get up to the crease. Now, I'm just going to use the edge of that brush, since I have that nice soft velvety base, to just kind of soften that line a little bit. And then here's where you can assess, do I need a little bit more on the lids? You know, do I need to build up any more of that contrast? Is it dark enough? You know, do I need more? I don't feel like I do. I feel like that looks pretty good. I'm gonna grab a smaller blending brush. This is the Refer 13 brush, and I'm gonna dip into that shade just barely, okay? And then I'm actually like, not only am I going to tap it off, I'm actually gonna buff it into a paper towel. You can use the back of your hand. I just want like a teeny bit of pigment on there so that I'm not removing product. Sometimes if you go in with like a totally clean brush, you can sort of like remove, you can remove that shadow. And I'm just using this to really soften and sort of define the crease. Sometimes she defined the crease, sometimes she didn't. Oh, so it's really gonna be up to you, but I do want this to be nice and soft. And in my opinion, the more you blow this out, the more modern it's going to look, because for the most part, the color is very much concentrated on her lid. Okay, on to the iconic eyeliner. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start off on the lower lash line to kind of create the shape. So if you look at her eye makeup, she uses a nude, sometimes white eyeliner. I'm going to use nude eyeliner in her waterline, and it sort of like follows her lash line going up into an angle to sort of like extend her upper lash line and lift everything. And it just creates this like an incredibly dramatic look without being like, I don't know, it just makes her eyes look like so the focus. And it's super striking. And at first you're not really going to notice like what's going on there until you look a little bit closer and you can see that that's sort of like the lighter outer corner is just sort of opened up and defined a little bit more, exaggerated. So I'm gonna use this eyeliner from Urban Decay. If you use a white, again, depending on your skin tone, it's just gonna end up looking like really, really harsh. So I actually think, like when I look at all of her looks, the color is very similar to her skin tone. At least that's the way it looks. So this is like a little bit more of a peachy nude. It might actually be a little bit light. This is Beige Flag from Urban Decay. It's waterproof and long lasting, so it's great for the waterline. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to line my waterline to like here. I'm not gonna take it into the very inner corner. Just here, stopping before this area. And then I'm gonna follow that line, and I'm just gonna drag it out a bit. So it really is going to depend on like how far out you want to take this. I'm going to take it out like relatively far. Almost as if you're making a wing, like independently, you know? Like this is just your winged liner. But the key is really using your lower lash line as the guide for the angle. And I'm making it a little bit bigger, a little bit longer than it needs to be, because I'm gonna be going in with that black and covering it up. So don't worry. Okay, so now I'm gonna go on to the eyeliner. Now for her eyeliner, she typically used black or a very dark brown. I'm actually going to be using a very dark brown, again, kind of like adjusting for my color. We are going to be going in and reinforcing with a liquid liner that will be black. So again, don't worry your pretty little faces. It's gonna be fine. You can use a really dark gray, like it just depends on, again, your skin tone, or you could just use a black, like the girl probably did in this look. I'm using the Huda Beauty Longwear eye pencil in Very Brown. This doesn't have a sharpener. So I'm just like rubbing it on the side of a paper towel to sharpen it up. So I'm actually going to start, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to start off with the lower lash line, okay? We're starting on the lower lash line just because this is like so the like foundation of the shape of the look, okay? So I am going to line just underneath that water line, and I'm only going to take it to like just past halfway. Okay, like that. I'm gonna do this on either side. This is a nice creamy kohl, so if you mess up, you can sort of like blend it out. And then I'm going to drag this up. Told you we were gonna cover up a bit of it to create the shape, the initial shape. And her liner wasn't insanely long, but it was a statement. And that tip really sort of like almost hit the end of her brows. Okay. So now I'm going to go on to the top eyelid, like eyeliner. And again, you could just go in with a liquid. I'm going to do this just to kind of like sketch it out so that I can make sure that I'm getting like, you know, placements proper. And I'm going to start above, looking straight into a mirror, starting above that peachy nude. And then drag it back. So this will really give you a sense for that opening, that like outer opening, okay? And I'm going to use this to line my whole eye. Now, one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is when you're looking at her, her eyelids are like, you can see quite a bit of her eyelids. She has like a nice crease in her eye crease and her lids aren't like completely covered up. So you want to make sure that you're not making your eyeliner like way, way, way too thick so that you're covering up your eyelid, okay? So I'm going to keep this relatively tight to my lash line, and I am going to be covering my whole lash line. And again, like I said, I'm going to be reinforcing this with a liquid liner. But I like to line my whole eye so I can kind of get a sense of like, okay, if I'm getting a little bit thicker on the outer part of the eye, once I've lined my whole eye, it kind of gives me an idea of like how much thicker the outer corner should be. Right? Obsessed. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab one of my little guys. This is my Refer 23 brush. I love this little guy. Look at this little guy. So tiny. So tiny. And I'm just going to buff gently that lower lash line eyeliner. Just so it's not like, I don't know, bumpy looking. And if you need to extend your liner, you can kind of use this as a step to do so. You know, once you get out here, just kind of pull it out. I'm just evaluating like how much of the nude I want showing and just buffing. Because again, when I'm going back to my reference, it's quite a thin line. Okay, so now for my, to really reinforce that, I'm going to go in with my Hindash eyeliner. I love this. It's the Hero Line eyeliner. I'm going to start off the very inner corner. I'm basically just going to line, go over that brown. And now I have a really nice guide for where to put everything so that I'm not covering the nude too much. You can see that 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 line is going like well above where the actual corner of my eye goes down. So that's why it's really useful to start off with your lower lash line as the guide, because otherwise you really run the risk of taking it too low and then having to do a ton of cleanup. So let me assess. How long do I want to take this out? Girl, you got this going out so far. Her liner does get quite a bit thicker on that outer part. Ugh, who's here? I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but all the delivery people call me because I'm always home and I'm like the only person who answers and lets them in. Plus I get a lot of deliveries, so like it makes sense. But I'm always worried. I don't know if anyone else has this problem. I live in LA, so like we have a lot of package thefts. My biggest fear is that I'm gonna be buzzing people in who are just like, who stole a vest, you know? And they're just like pretending to be someone and they're just gonna come in and they're gonna like steal everybody's packages and it's gonna be my fault. Like that's a fear that's always in my head. Anyway, eyeliner. Let's do the other side. One thing to keep in mind is a winged liner can smell when you're scared. So like you have to just like go in with confidence, which I'm absolutely not doing. I'm like being very ginger about it. But like they know. So just like, you just gotta go in and just like make the line, you know? Okay, one of your best friends when it comes to winged liner, if you need to clean anything up, is the Half Magic Flick Eraser. Fabulous. It's just like a little bit of micellar water. Let's just hit myself in the face. And it looks like their other eraser or whatever, but this is the, what? It looks like their other eyeliner, their Flick eyeliner, but this is the eraser. So it just has micellar water. You just wanna make sure that you like wiped it off and it's actually clean. But it's so good. And because it's micellar water, it doesn't make stuff bleed. You know, like if it were a makeup remover oil, it ends up just kind of like breaking stuff down. But it's really good. I like it a lot. It's like one of my favorite products. And then I'm just gonna take that same liquid liner and I'm going to go over this line to just like really sharpen it up. Okay, now Sophia's eyeliner was actually quite a bit thicker on the outer part of her eye than mine is. However, she also had quite a bit of a lift at the outer part of her eye, whereas my crease starts to come down quite a bit. So what you can do in this situation, make it thicker, create a little bit more of a bat wing like situation, especially on this side. You can see it's like really being pushed down. I don't really feel the need to do that. I like the way this looks. I'm not going to push it any further, basically. So yeah, then depending on the closeness of your eyes, I have quite close set eyes, but I am going to do this. She did do the tiniest extension into her inner corner. So using that same liquid liner, I'm just barely going to create a line that goes over my inner corner. So that is very much optional if you think it's flattering on you. All right, I am going to curl my lashes and apply a coat of mascara. We are going to be using falsies, which is really, really important for her looks. The lashes are everything. So for my mascara, I'm going to be using the Vive Icon mascara. I recently purchased this and it's pretty fabulous. Like, look at that. Look at that wand. Holy shit. So I'm going to do like a generous coat of this mascara. Of course, I got it on my lash line. I'm not looking down into a mirror. And I'm just coating my lashes. I don't really care what they look like because we are going in with falsies, which honestly is a bit of a waste of this mascara because it is so good. Okay. It's not, I'm like not a good poster child for this mascara right now. I promise you it's like really, really good. But I like barely curled my lashes and I applied that in like the most haphazard way possible. So I'm just taking some of these flakes off. And then for my lashes, so her lashes were so incredible. And they really made the look. So for my lashes, I'm going to be, should I use these? You know, a really, just like a basic pair of Ardells would be perfect. For whatever reason, I don't have any. You think that I would. However, I love these lashes from House of Lashes. You want to think wispy, basically. Not round, like definitely, I would say like either even or like with a bit of a flare on the end. It's going to emphasize the outer corner. So these are the latte lashes from House of Lashes. They're actually a blend of black and brown synthetic fibers. And they're just so beautiful. I think the latte collection from House of Lashes is like one of my favorite. Okay, so I'm not going to trim these. I am going to be using the full length of lashes because you know what she did that was so freaking cool? I'm just gonna rough this bitch up, let it know who's boss, you know what I mean? Let me pop some glue on here while we chat. So this is the Duo Brush On Lash Adhesive in Dark. If you need help with lashes, I have an amazing lash application video that I'm gonna pop right here. Just saying. Okay, so the most incredible thing, it's the most incredible thing. So when she applied her falsies, or whoever was doing her makeup applied her falsies, what she would do is she would line up the outer part of the lash with like the outer part of her eyeliner that she created. So it's just sort of like emphasizing that like open outer corner, which is just incredible. And it really just made her eyes look like not only like extra lifted, which she already had this like beautiful lifted outer corner, but it emphasized the openness of it. So a lot of the time when we think of like a lifted eye, especially nowadays, more modern thing, like way of thinking about it is sort of like the fox eye trend where things are like very like snatched and like sort of like this, you know what I mean? But they're just, she had these like incredible, almost lifted doe eyes, you know, with that like lighter waterline. It was really, really beautiful. So I'm just gonna wait for this to get tacky. You don't want to take it like too far. It wasn't like lined up with like the very outer part of her eyeliner, but like just above, like just let's see. Give me a deep zoom. It's like taking her outer corner and just sort of like above it and ever so slightly out. So it'll kind of depend on like your eye shape and how much room do you have to work with here. See if I can do this without the camera going all fuzzy. I'm gonna place it in a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab the outer corner and just make sure that I'm adhering it right to the end of that liner. And then pop it into the inner corner. No, did I completely fuck this up? Because I'm actually refilming this. I filmed this video. This is my second time filming it because when I put my lashes on, it totally fucked up my eyeliner. And I'm like PTSD about that right now. Do you see? Do you see what that does? So I just want to make sure that that is like on. And then I'm just going to use my tweezers to press my natural lashes that are still a little bit sticky from my mascara to the falsies so that we're not covering that incredible open outer corner. Please proceed with caution. Use a lash applicator. Don't use tweezers like I am. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Okay, now if my eyeliner is messed up after this lash application, then I'm quitting YouTube. I'm quitting. Oh, am I quitting? It could be a hell of a lot worse. It could be a hell of a lot worse. I think it's okay. I think I get to like keep my job. Isn't that incredible? Like what that does to the eye? It's amazing. It's just like, oh, what an iconic look. Truly. All right, I'm gonna do the other one off camera because I really don't want to lose my job. Okay, for my lower lashes, I'm going to use the Half Magic mascara because when it comes to lower lashes, she liked like a very sheer, gentle coating of mascara. Like they had mascara, but it wasn't majorly defined. You just want to make sure that you are balancing it out with like all the drama that's going on up top. But to be honest with you, you could skip it. Like I think sometimes she skipped it, but she had brown hair, so you could see definition of her lashes. So like if you don't really have lower lashes, or if you just don't really feel like wearing lower lash mascara, you don't have to. I'm just gonna do a little bit. I personally prefer the way like a little bit of that just sort of like balances out the top. But if you don't want to do it, sometimes the absence of something makes like what you're trying to make the focus that much more impactful. All right, let's do the lips. I'm just gonna blot. I'm gonna do a little bit of blotting. There's a little bit of eyeliner on my paper towel. I just gave myself like a little tiny who shall not be named mustache. Jesus Christ. All right, so I'm going to, what I loved about her lips is she would sometimes overline ever so slightly, only the Cupid's bow. So there's like a teeny bit of a lift to the Cupid's bow. Everything else was very much like her lips. And she had a very, very defined lip line. Okay, so think defined. I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills lip liner in Muted Mauve. I think this is going to give like a nice sort of like definition to the lips and be like a good tone for the rest of the lip look. Just making sure that this is nice and sharp. So since my lips honestly are like, I don't know, relatively full, I don't feel like I really need to overline. And she did like a nice sharp Cupid's bow. It's a little wider than mine though. And then based on her lower lip shape, which has like quite a full lower lip, I'm just gonna emphasize the outer part of the lower lip and not the very center. Okay, and then similar to her blush for the lip color, it was typically like sort of like these muted peaches. They very much like reflected whatever she was wearing on her cheeks. So for my lip color, I'm going to be using the Creamy Matte Lipstick from Hung Van Gogh in the shade 88. And I'm just going to pat this on the lips. This is a matte lipstick, which she didn't typically use, but I am going to layer it. I really just wanted this for the tone. So just a little bit of that. And then I'm going to go in with the Armani Lip Power in 102, which is a really beautiful, nice nude. It has like ever so slightly more pink in it. And it's a very, very sheer sort of formula. It's kind of like lip balm-esque. So it's going to give us a little bit more of that sort of like satin sheen. And then I'm just going to go in and sharpen up. Since especially in the look that I'm recreating, you can really see her lip liner. Especially on the top lip. Okay, so that's it for the look up close. How do we feel? Did I fuck up the, you know what? I didn't look. Am I fired? Did I fuck up the, oh, do you see that? You guys, I think I'm fired. Oh, I'm gonna try to fix it and it's gonna be horrible. Oh God, should I even? Yeah, I'll do it. Did I fix it? That's the only thing with placing your falsies like up higher. You just gotta be careful the way that it like pushes your eyelids down, okay? Especially if you're like 30 and over. 30 and over, just be careful of like manipulating your eyelid. Take two. Close-ups. Fabulous. Cute. Yeah, I actually did overline the Cupid's bow because when you really zoom in, she actually does overline the Cupid's bow a little bit. That's the only place that she overlines, but you can see it. She overlines it by like a little bit. Anyway, so this is the finished look, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed. The eye look is incredibly iconic, and I mean, it absolutely transfers to like a more modern look. Like I said, you can modernize the base of it if you want. Obviously the lip keeps it looking very like of its time as well, so you can modernize the lip. but the eye look is just like timeless, absolutely timeless. It's so beautiful. I've seen it recreated or sort of like adjusted on like looks on Sabrina Carpenter and like other celebrities for years and years and years. So it's something. It's really something. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if you recreate this eye look or if it sort of like inspires you to try this out or maybe take some elements from it. Just remember that if you are trying to like recreate the essence of Sophia Loren, think satin matte everywhere except for the lips. Okay. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and comment and blah, blah, blah. Join me for live streams that are happening on Thursdays. I think usually around like noon PST. And also there is going to be some random ones interspersed. Like for instance, I might just hop on one today. Just like chat. And if you ever miss them live, they are uploaded fully. So you can like go back and watch them if you want. I gotta go. I'm gonna have some soup. I made a really good soup, like roasted veggies, and then I made some chicken breast and I like shredded the chicken breast. I'm so excited. And I'm gonna put a little bit of Greek yogurt. It's gonna be so good. All right, I gotta go.